G'day, Steve Morgan here. We are at the conclusion of the first round of the 2021 Daiwa BREAM Series, sponsored by Mercury, and we are parked on the back lawn of the Meetung pub. What better place to celebrate with the winner of the Boater division, Declan Betts? And let me sum it up in 4 words. I went to Holland's. Am I true? Is this true?
Absolutely 100% correct. It was a Monty, surely, to go there. None of the rest of it, just to go there.
Let's have a little bit of a look back at the final presentation. You put those fish on the scales. You took the first place prize back there, and one of the sayings you said is like, "It's when it's your time, and stuff goes right." We've heard some pretty epic tales of maybe some wheels falling off your campaigns in the past, and it's, you know, it may not be amusing for you, but it's pretty amusing for us a lot of the time. Give us a bit of a recollection of what happens when it all comes together for Betsy when Holland's is going off like a frog in the sock. It was going off like your phone.
Going off like my phone, yeah. Well, it doesn't. I've seen it when it does go off like a frog in a sock, and that wasn't it. That was a grind, an absolute grind. Worthy, and the results were there, but I did stuff this weekend that I just wouldn't normally do. It all felt upside down, and so I went and did upside down things and found results that, yeah, I didn't think were coming at times.
Give us an example of doing something like upside down. Might mean something to you, but when we're talking to the people that are bream fishermen saying, well, what's upside down for Betsy? I thought upside down is right way up for Betsy anyway.
Yeah, well, I am a bit left of centre or roundabout. Yeah, so there's banks that we would usually call, you know, go-to banks, like anybody has go-to banks. Didn't find them doing those sorts of things. Didn't seem to get much of a response out of those places. Never found, like often at Holland's, there'll be a couple of schools like floating around and you'll see them like load up on the sounder. Nothing, a few isolated dots out wider, but just not what you would say bulk fish hanging around, and not a bulk school to switch on and just, you know, make hay. It just wasn't there. So we do ignore a lot of banks up there for whatever reason. You think they're too shallow, or they're not holding fish, or they just don't look good enough, or they're not as good as those banks. And I sort of made a bit of once I got a couple of good fish on pre-fish, I said, I'm going to look at this place properly and just, you know, explore a few things, because I'd committed to the strategy. Was happy enough with what I was seeing, wasn't going to just come down to the Mitchell or whatever and play around. I thought, well, let's learn some things, gain a bit of confidence, and yeah, it was a pretty epic sort of day for only 8 fish.
So on the practice day. So what did you refine on that day? Like, what did you have tied on to get the grind done?
Yeah, I actually had I think it was a Daiwa spike in the old wild pond gill, the Nocky style colour, and I had a Z-Man grub motor oil, and there's a Squidgy wriggler in there as well, or bio-tough wriggler, and just had them on nail bomb heads because of the basically just trying to get through all the timber and not get stuck up on them. And yeah, just keep on, like, some days you can run wide in that place and get a result, but I'm a bit of a just get up hard on the edge person. That's where they are if they're hungry, and usually when they want it and they take it. So
what sort of gear do you use to win those battles?
Yeah, so generally a Daiwa Cetate 2016, because I don't like LTs.
Yep. Old school Cetate?
Yeah, old school, yeah, when they made finesse. But the LTs would go really well up there. I know that probably doesn't make sense to anybody else. You might understand what I'm talking about. But anyway, so that's usually either 2510 or 2500, so you got a bit more cranking power. 252 Samurai, and occasionally a 302 Samurai.
So a heavier, shorter rod?
Short. Well, not shorter, they're the same length. Yeah. But the thing about the 252 is, like, it's the proper blend to get a good definition on your bites and understanding with touch and what you're feeling, what you're running through, and then the balls to get the fish out. Yep. And that's, you know, they're both key components, and it's not an easy thing to balance. Because some of those bites are like, you know, an electric shock down your arm, and some of them are just like, and you'll probably see, I didn't get a lot on the film, but you'll see one of them where I've just gone, oh, yeah, it'll explain itself.
Obviously, the strategy of not going to Holland's didn't go in your mind, and that's great. Your coach would think that is a great idea to play your strengths. I want a general comment from you about just how good this fishery fished this weekend. Like, there are no nets in this joint now. It was always a pretty solid fishery in patches. How do you see it developing over the next few years? Are we going to be sitting here in 10 years' time thinking only 5 kilos, you're not even going to go close?
Well, we know what fish are like. They have their moments. When they're on, and when they don't want a bar of it. I mean, look, I probably came here thinking if we had wind, this place would have been raining 5 kilo bags. I really thought records for an ABT event, 5 kilos, would have been broken. But we had hot and fairly still yesterday, and again today the overcast probably helped, but the wind never really blew. And the guys out in the flats, all the shallower stuff, good, all credit to them for getting them, especially yesterday. But, if you'd had 25k an hour, 30k an hour winds, it could have been anything, and it's only ever going to get better. How it develops, I think it's anyone's guess. I mean, they took nets out of Malakuta. Is it as good as it was? Don't know. I've got a different school of thought on that, and we're probably not going to go into that discussion. But quality versus quantity sometimes has an issue. But there's a lot of space out here which should give them a fair bit of grace.
Yeah. Well, we're all looking forward to it, and I think after looking at the bag weights from this weekend, people watching the weights are going, I've got to get myself to Gippsland Lakes, and I'm sure we'll be doing it probably about this time of year again next year, mate. Final comment from you. You were entered to Blue Rock, the event we had to cancel from the lockdown. How long is it till we can post a title that says Declan Betts, Bass and Bream Champion? I heard you got them all right.
Yeah, I got them all right that day. I got them all right on the way up here, actually. It's a new thing, I guess, and it's still about a 3.5 hour trip from where I live, but it's very enjoyable, and I would like to one day get up and see what Glenbourne or Sinclair, one of those places that's really and I think from a bream fisherman side of things, well, with a few tweaks and a bit of thought process, you can go all right on them too. So
there you go. So the message is to the bass guys out there: watch out. Declan Betts is coming to get you.